Okay, Rich Boesel here again. I want to show you another one of my favorite flies that we use here in North Carolina on the delayed harvest rivers. This is my DH Vacuum, delayed harvest vacuum. Named it because on several days, just about every time the fly hit the water, we caught a fish, and it was just vacuuming the fish out of the pools. So we do a lot of uronymphing now, and this is going to be a uronymph fly. Couple things that on uronymphs, everybody likes to have a little hot spot, but I've substituted a hot spot for a hot head. So this is actually a 3mm fluorescent bead that we're going to put on the front. You can go up to a 3.2 or 3.5. This is a size 14 hook. It's a jig hook. I'm going to show you how to do this fly, but we'll actually tie it on a size this is a size 16 jig hook. We're actually going to tie it in this demo on a size 14 just so we can see the steps a little bit better. So I'll take this one off and we'll go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is just get us locked down. And we'll take our bead, slide it a little bit forward. And then first step is going to be to put a little lead wire on here, and we're going to use a 0.01 diameter lead wire. And I like to wrap this, I'm right-handed, normally I wrap things clockwise around the fly. I'm going to start wrapping this kind of counterclockwise, and the reason for that is as I slide this up into the bead of the eye later on, when I put my thread on, it doesn't bite into the actual lead, and it actually keeps it tighter. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to break this off just using my fingertips. That didn't quite break where I wanted it, so it's come in behind it, and we'll just tighten it up a bit. So you can just kind of squeeze this lead wire. We're going to slide this forward and get it to slide up into that head of that bead a little bit, like that. So that helps lock it into place, adds weight without adding a lot of diameter to this fly, because we're going to be wanting to wrap a bunch of stuff in that area. Then we're going to create a little bit of a dam, and oh, by the way, this is black UTC Ultra. You can use any color that you like, whatever you think works in your local water. So this is black. You can use olive. You can use just about any dark color. I think the dark colors work better. We're just going to wrap this on here and head on back towards the tail of the fly. Trim off our tab and keep going. A couple other things too I do like to have a bobbin for this that has a ceramic insert so it doesn't fray your thread as you go down. So we're going to come down here and just kind of wrap down to just a little bit past the point of the eye. Everybody has their favorite place for this. I don't think it makes too much difference. Then we're going to take a little peacock feather and we're going to create a tail from this. So just grab 4 or 5 strands. You can also use coq de lion fibers or any kind of fibers for this. And I like my tail to not be way too long, but to be about the length between the bend of the hook and the tip. Something like that. Now we'll take a quick wrap, tie that in, check it, make sure it's about right. That's about where I want it. We'll come back a little bit. About there, and then we'll wrap forward a little bit and get rid of our waste and just clean this up a bit. And if you notice, there's a little bit of a divot in here from where we tied in that lead, so you got to build this up a little bit in order to create that nice tapered body that we want. So we'll just kind of go back and forth here a little bit. And you don't have to worry about wrapping and untwisting your line to do this. and I'll show you why when we get there. So the next thing we're going to do is take a little wire, and I like silver for this. This is the silver brassy for this size. If you're going to go a lot smaller, you could go with a smaller, and if you're going to go with a size 18, kind of a extra small. So we're going to break off a little piece of wire and tie this in just right along the top of the fly. You want to really kind of cover this up. So try and have touching wraps here as you go down, so you cover up all that wire as you come back towards your tail. And then you can kind of come up forward real quick. So the next part is just to wrap this forward, and we're going to do several wraps as we come forward, create our segmented little body. I don't think it makes any difference how many you do. I just wrap them until I run out of room and then tie it off. And then we'll helicopter this off, which never kind of works for me very well, but that time it did. Okay. The next step in this is kind of a fun step. We're going to take some UV clear fly finish. This is by Loon, but you can use any UV clear. You want something that's relatively, not really thick. So this one's not really thick, it's actually pretty thin. And we're going to coat this whole body all the way back to the tail of the fly. Just kind of get that on there. You can rotate this a little bit in order to get the bottom. And this does two things. It creates a really cool effect on your fly. It makes it so that it sinks a little bit faster. It makes it so it doesn't unravel any. And then we're going to take our light, and this is a little infinity light from Loon. I really like this. It's super, super bright. And we're going to hit it and set our rosin. Doesn't take too long. I got this infinity light not too long ago, and I'm really, really happy with it. That's plenty. I used to have this little blue one like this, but you can see this has new batteries in it. Well, it doesn't even come on anymore. Oh yeah, it does. And you can see how even with new batteries, that's not nearly as bright as that infinity light was. So this took forever to kind of cure my rosins, whereas with this new one, it's really great. So it's something to consider anyway. Now, the next part of this is something I like to do, is to create some legs going down. And we're going to do that by taking a feather, and again, you can use any kind of feather you want. This happens to be a chucker feather from a chucker that we hunt around here locally. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a little Y, or not a Y, but a V-shaped piece of this. And we're going to just reach in here with some scissors and snip out a little piece. I don't know if you can see what I did. And then I'm going to come in behind it, or under it, go down the stem a little bit, and we're going to snip out another little piece. So what this has effectively done is created this little Y-shaped piece of feather. Pretty cool. We're going to put this now in here, and I'm going to kind of just squeeze it in here gently with my fingertips. And then we'll take some wraps right behind the head, binding this thing down. And then what we'll do is trim off the little tab up front. Some people will actually fold this back and tie it down again, which you can do. In fact, I'm going to do it right now, just to kind of make it a little bit easier, because it doesn't make any difference. We don't have to tie it. So that'll actually be my legs going down, and we'll kind of rough those up later on. The next part of this is then to add just a little bit of dubbing to that area, and you can use any color dubbing you want. I like to take a little pink. UV dubbing and mix it with a little bit of my favorite ice dub Peacock. So you can just a little bit of this. We'll mix this together real quick just to create a little tiny dubbing noodle. That Peacock ice dubbing is really long compared to the pink stuff, and it goes a long way. So we'll just get this on our thread, and we'll just dub this on right behind the head there a little bit. And that's going to be plenty. We'll take off the little excess there. These little flyers I don't really worry about because I actually think they add to the fly in the water. Alright, so we're almost done. The next part is kind of a cool little step. I really like this. I've been finding that a lot of the fish around here really like to have this little extra wing on top. And what I do is I take a little craft fur and I just create a little tiny noodle from it, like that. And we're just going to trim this. It looks really bad because my dogs actually got into this thinking it was something that they could go hunt with or pull apart as if it was fur from an animal, and they roughened it up a lot for me. We're just going to lay this right on top, do a couple little ties here, 2 wraps usually. And then I'm going to peel it back, and then I'd like to try and just capture that a little bit coming back, if I can. Just like that. And then we can trim this part off, and I'd leave this about an 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Get rid of a little bit of these little flyers that are on here. Okay. So we're just going to whip finish, and then one last little step that I like to do. And we're pretty close to being done. So right now there's a little divot here still that occurs from the slotted head. And I just like to take a little bit of that UV rosin. Again, you can use clear. I happen to have a little bit of black. And I'm just going to fill in that little hole with this black rosin. Got a lot of bubbles. There we go. And that also then binds down my threads so that my threads don't unravel at all. It makes the fly a little bit more durable. And you can see how much this fly glows in the UV light. So if you get out there in the river, and if you believe that UV helps, I do. I think this really is a big attractor for us. So now you can just kind of clean up. And again, these little flyers down here, these little pieces of the UV that are hanging down, I actually think they actually help. I leave them on my flies, and then what I do is I come in here with my fingertips and I pull those legs kind of back to create more of a insect-looking kind of leggy fly on there. And that's pretty much it. May not be the greatest thing to look at, but let me tell you, put this in the water, especially on the delayed harvest stuff around here, and that fly just really goes great. I use this as my bottom fly. Usually I'll soft tackle up top and put this underneath, and it really does catch a lot of fish. Hope you enjoy that. Give it a try. And again, size 16 is what I probably fish most of the time. I tied this size 14 just for demo purposes. But I also tie this in a size 18, which sometimes works better. But size 16 is my probably go-to all the time. Hope you try it and give it a try.